All right. Hello, everybody. We are back for another NBA pre trade deadline breaking news stream. If you enjoyed last night's stream, it's well appreciated as people start to join in here. As we've got breaking news. By the way, my name is Nick Morgeson. I'm co host of Empty the Bench, the flagship show on the Empty the Bench podcast network. And we've got huge news again from Shams Charania. The Sacramento Kings are finalizing a trade to send star De'Aaron Fox to the San Antonio Spurs in a multi-team trade that moves Chicago Bulls' Zach LaVine to the Kings. Now, I said it last night when we broke down the Luka Doncic trade for Anthony Davis for the Lakers and the Mavs. And I said, what was going to be the next big deal? Now, last night's trade was insane. That was insane. That no one expected that trade at all. And to be honest, this one is shocking too. To be fair, this one was nowhere in the cards to be found. Now, Shams Charania just tweeted out about 3 minutes ago the official trade that has gone down. So the Spurs are getting De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. The Kings are getting Zach LaVine, City Cisco, 3 first-round picks, the 2025 from Charlotte, 2027 from the Spurs, and 2031 from Minnesota, and 3 second-round picks, 2025 Chicago, 2028 Denver, and 2028 own pick back. And the Bulls are going to get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and their own 2025 pick via the Spurs. This is crazy. The 2 amazingly large deals take place 4 days officially before the trade deadline on February 6th. And by the way, as everyone continues to join, if you have comments and reactions, please drop them in the comments section and we will talk. If you have questions about this trade, we will discuss this because this is incredible. Absolutely mind-blowing. And when I said last night that I thought this couldn't get any bigger with Luka going to the Lakers and Anthony Davis basically getting thrown away to Dallas, it gets even bigger. Now, I thought that De'Aaron Fox had a home in Sacramento, and I thought that team was really going to build into something, but apparently the Kings basically said, adios, I guess we're done with that. Unless it's the same situation like with Luka, where Luka had a 5-year, $345 million supermax, and they just didn't want to pay him. But this is an incredible move for the San Antonio Spurs. You already have Victor Wembanyama, who is come on the scene in a huge way, has come on, and is now going to be one of the biggest stars in the NBA for many years to come. But now you add De'Aaron Fox as a combo to Victor Wembanyama? I mean, seriously? You now have a duo. It kind of reminds me of the Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan days back when they were a dynasty in San Antonio. I mean, I dare someone to tell me that this is not an incredible move for the San Antonio Spurs. I didn't expect the Spurs to make this type of move right off the bat, but holy cow, I did not expect that. There's my good friend Grant and Jack, their podcast, the Bear Claw Cast. Bulls are poverty. Thank God for the Jordan era. Yes, Grant. Yes. But, Grant, I'll say one thing to you since you're watching right now. Zach LaVine was basically a miserable, I wouldn't even call him a star, but miserable in Chicago. He didn't want to be there. Let's just call a spade, okay? Zach LaVine was a really good player, and I thought he had a really good future in Chicago. But he just didn't want to play there at all. He was miserable. And it's not because of anything that the Bulls did. He just had a sour attitude in Chicago. And by the way, besides Grant, if there's any Chicago fans in there, tell me your thoughts about what you think about the Bulls trading Zach LaVine to the Kings. Or actually, well, yeah, in terms that they traded to the Kings. But you had to let him go. He just didn't want to play. He was a disgruntled, I wouldn't even call him a star. He's not a star. He was a miserable player who just hated playing in Chicago. Hated it. And let's be real about something else, okay? We saw one of these big deals go down last night, like I said, between the Lakers and the Mavs, and they kind of used the Jazz as a third team because of all the apron rules and issues that had to be settled. The Bulls are that third team right now. They're just that third team. Like, they're kind of just the extra parts that had to be given to allow the aprons and the salary cap to match on both sides. And by the way, I appreciate everyone who's watching right now. There are over 600 people in this room right now watching live as we're going through the breaking news as of right now. Okay, let's continue. So I want to pull up De'Aaron Fox's contract because that's a whole nother issue in itself that we're not talking about at the moment. So let's pull that up first. So currently, De'Aaron Fox for this year is making close to $35 million this year. Okay. So I don't know if it's a money issue for Sacramento. I doubt it. But you're trading this guy. He signed a 5-year, $163 million contract, which started in 21-22, the 21-22 season. So his money's been going up significantly each year. So I don't know if that's what they're taking into account, or could this be De'Aaron Fox who wanted out? I have no idea in this scenario. Again, please leave your comments wherever you're watching, whether if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on X, Twitter. I still call it Twitter. And let me know your thoughts on this trade, and we'll get to comments because there's going to be a lot of reaction to yesterday's trade and reaction to trade right this minute. But the salary, it's not as high as some of the big name stars across the NBA, but he is making close to $35 million right now for this year, and he's going to make a little over $37 million for next year, and then he becomes an unrestricted free agent for the 26-27 season. So it's a lot of money, no doubt, but he's under contract for another season. And then the Spurs can figure out whether they want to resign him. I would resign him. I think he's a really good player. But just looking at this deal, the Spurs, I wouldn't call them desperate because they're in rebuilding mode right now. But if you're trading for De'Aaron Fox, are you really in rebuilding mode right now? I wouldn't say you're in rebuilding mode. I would say you're kind of making a move to make the playoffs. And to be honest, they're not going to make the play. They might make the playoffs now with a Wemby and a De'Aaron Fox combo, but they're not going to go far. And if there are any San Antonio fans watching in here, please comment away. I want to hear your thoughts on this trade and if you're shocked that this trade is going on currently. And if you're enjoying this or the stream, if you go back and watch the stream from last night, please go subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. That would be gladly appreciated if you could. That would mean everything to me because we do a lot of content and a lot of live streams. So youtube.com/ETB Network. Quick plug. Now back to the trade. So it's not as shocking as last night. Let me say that, number one. It's not as shocking. But what I will say is the Spurs, who I keep saying were a little bit in poverty and are now kind of going for it. I wouldn't say going for it, but kind of making moves and trying to build a team. Now, the De'Aaron Fox move, he's a young player. So maybe this is a long-term move to give Wemby a decent star guard to play along with. And again, the NBA is reacting in shock as I'm trying to look around and see how everyone is reacting to this whole matter. But this is going to whip up the NBA quite a bit now because you're seeing two big moves. And now, what else is going to happen before the NBA trade deadline? I said last night I didn't think there could be as big a trade as last night. But what do I know? I'm a huge NBA nerd. I follow all the sources and I follow everything that is going on. But wow, everybody. This is incredible. Incredible the way this is going. And when I tell you, this one I'm more shocked about. Okay? And anyone who says to me they thought this trade was going to happen today, you're a liar. You're a liar. Because there's no way that we thought, if you thought last night's trade was going to happen, you were lying too. But this one, basically, I guess the Kings are waving the white flag. That's what it sounds like to me. This guy's a young stud. He's going to be a star for many, many years to come. He's only 27. And by the time he's a free agent, he'll be 29. He's not even going to be 30 yet when he hits free agency. So I don't know what the Kings were trying to accomplish with this type of move, but wow, everybody. Like, this is just an incredible time for the NBA who is dealing with ratings issues and dealing with trying to get the game back up, getting stars more involved. I wish Adam Silver would stop with the 3-point nonsense, but now you see two big stars changing venues, changing locations. And you're seeing a shakeup across the NBA when it comes to making huge moves. Huge moves. Now, what's next? What could possibly come next? And by the way, the amount of picks, this makes more sense than last night. The Lakers only gave up one pick last night, trading for Luka. Okay? In this trade, the Kings got Zach LaVine and they got 3 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks. So they got 6 draft picks. So they got plenty of capital in return, along with Zach LaVine, to make this deal happen. On the other hand, the Bulls, like I said, are kind of just the squeaky third wheel. And if Zambando is watching too, and Grant, who are Chicago fans, I'm curious to hear what their thoughts are going to be on this scenario. But holy jeez. Like, I thought we wouldn't see another deal like this until like the trade deadline. But wow, like seeing all this breaking news drop. And again, like on a Sunday news dump of all places. I mean, I don't know what to tell you when it comes to that, but like, wow. Like, and everyone thought the NFL was going to be the dominant headline this week. Well, the NBA is stealing headlines right now. And literally stealing headlines. And we're going to see more shakeups. More shakeups. And we're going to see more teams now get aggressive as we get closer and closer to the NBA trade deadline. I said this last night that the Lakers started it when it came to, all right, we have to make a move to save our season. Because let's be real, the Lakers were going nowhere. Nowhere. They had no chance. They might have made the playoffs with LeBron and AD, but they would have been out first or second round. Let's just be real. And by the way, we've hit over 1,000 people watching live. So thank you. I gladly appreciate everyone who's watching right now. But this is just, add this to the list of moves that are major for this NBA trade deadline. If there are any questions or comments, we did this last night. We had a lot of questions and comments, reaction to the trades that just went down. And if you're just joining the room, breaking from Sham Sharania, Sacramento is finalizing a trade to send De'Aaron Fox to the San Antonio Spurs in a multi-team trade that moves Chicago Bulls Zach LaVine to the Kings. So, who do you think is the winner in this deal? I can tell you who the winner is of this deal, but I'm curious of the over 1,000 people who are watching live in this room currently, right now. Tell me who you think is the winner of this trade. And we'll put some comments up when they come in. But, wow. That's all I can really say. And I'm kind of scrolling the Twitterverse to see reactions from everybody as they come in. One of my colleagues, Johnny Montalbano, just tweeted out 6 minutes ago. Let's have a trade like Luka and Fox for every day until the trade deadline, and we'll breeze to the Super Bowl this coming week. I agree with that. Excuse me. I agree with that 1,000%. That's 100% accurate. So there's going to be more moves. This doesn't signal the end to me. There's still Jimmy Butler out there. Could Jimmy Butler be moved? And now we have more coming in. So according to Mark Stein, who used to work for ESPN and the New York Times and a bunch of other platforms, league sources say that the Warriors did seriously explore trade constructions that would have brought both Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic to the Bay Area before Golden State opted to focus on other trade pursuits. Okay, that's interesting. So the Warriors were in on this, but they didn't pull the trigger on it. So I guess that really left the Spurs being the most aggressive team, making an offer. So were the Spurs the only team? I think it's a little different. I guarantee you there was more of a market for De'Aaron Fox than there was for Luka Doncic. As sad as that and pathetic as that sounds, the market was speaking up more for De'Aaron Fox than it was for Luka Doncic. And I just think because of Luka's injury history and all that other stuff, De'Aaron Fox is way more valuable currently than Luka Doncic. And if you want to comment on that in our comment section, please go ahead. Tell me your thoughts of who you think is more valuable, Luka Doncic or De'Aaron Fox. But in my opinion, currently, De'Aaron Fox is more valuable than Luka Doncic. And it's not close. Especially because De'Aaron Fox can stay on the court more than Luka Doncic. He's not on the court now. Even before the trade, he was barely staying on the court. De'Aaron Fox is a really good player. And actually, they were starting to find their sea legs in Sacramento. That's why I'm confused why the Kings were so quick to trade him. Unless they're just not confident, or again, they don't want to pay when he's eligible for a Supermax contract extension. Now, I don't know if it would have been the same money as Luka was eligible for a 5-year Supermax, $345 million. Excuse me. But I think that the way this was going, and by the way, in case people don't know the rules, as soon as Luka was traded from Dallas to Los Angeles to the Lakers, that Supermax got canceled out. So that's now officially off the table for Luka. So I think that was more of a money and a health situation. And by the way, the Dallas GM, who sounds like an effing idiot. I mean, he came out, and I think his name is Nico Harrison. Yeah. So Mavericks GM Nico Harrison came out later on after the trade and said, "Oh, well, defense wins championships." Okay. What are you trying to prove there? So, I get it. Luka's not a great offensive player, but I digress. For this trade, this was quite literally the Spurs making a splash. And that's what it seems like here. They made a splash. And there's not much more else to really say. And I just don't know. Like, I'm shocked. And I want to look at the other side of Zach LaVine's contract, because I'm curious to see if that had to do with some of the move, and if that necessitated a trade. So I'm currently looking that up as we speak. His contract, but all right. So here's his contract. Currently, this year, making $43 million. Next year, he's going to make 46. And in 26-27, he's going to make close to $49 million. So the money was consistent throughout his contract. And De'Aaron Fox's contract was consistent at best, I guess is the best way to put it. But anyone who knows the NBA also knows that the Kings are not a competitive team. They have not been a competitive team for quite a long time. So to say that you'd be surprised by a move like this, like, I don't know if I would be surprised by this. And the NBA is trying its best to steal headlines away from the NFL for the Super Bowl. And I just see people tweeting away. By the way, I already see people putting pictures of Luka in a Laker jersey, which is kind of hilarious. And I just don't know what to say. Like, I'm laughing looking at Luka next to LeBron in a Laker jersey. I mean, come on, man. Like, you really think that Luka's going to help win a championship in Los Angeles with LeBron? It's two ego headstrong individuals. Now, I'm still going to hold court. I'm going to hold judgment on De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama, because I have to wait and see how that plays out. But it's a good deal for the Spurs. It's an incredible deal for the Spurs. And when I talk about this, and we'll have to see how it plays out and if it's a good fit. Now, will De'Aaron Fox fit into the Greg Popovich scheme? That's another question that you really got to ask and see if it really works the way it needs to work. I've not been the biggest Greg Popovich fan. I just haven't. And I'm curious to see if maybe having a more experienced coach is the way to go. Now, I know the Kings fired their head coach, if I'm not mistaken, that was Mike Brown, right? So yeah, they fired Mike Brown. And I like Mike Brown. Mike Brown is actually a really good coach. I think that he kind of just got the bad end of the bargain in Sacramento. And when I look at this and I say, will this move pay off in the long run? You got to give it time. You got to give it time. It's too early to have a reaction of, well, the Spurs are going to go on the next dynasty. It's the next Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, Robert Horry. It's the next dynasty in the Spurs. No, it's not. It's too early. Right now, I'm going to say the jury's out. You can't make any decision right now on the San Antonio Spurs. It is too early. Like I said earlier, this was a rebuilding squad in San Antonio. Okay? So be happy. Spurs fans should be elated, ecstatic right now that they got another star to put next to Victor Wembanyama. He is probably, Victor Wembanyama is going to be a superstar in the next 2 to 3 years. He's already having a good year this year. Just imagine once he gets totally adjusted to playing in the NBA and has the ability to now have another star to get the ball to so that he's not double and triple teamed. That's a scary thought, everybody. A scary thought. This guy could be averaging triple doubles, for crying out loud, having De'Aaron Fox now in a uniform in San Antonio. And it's funny because, like, I see people reacting to the deal. And SportsCenter just put out their Twitter account. It's a first look at the Kings' potential starting five with Zach LaVine. Okay? So Malik Monk, who's a really good young player, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray, and Domantas Sabonis. That is a heck of a good lineup. A really good lineup. And it's going to be tough to beat. I don't think there's enough. You really don't have a big man in that lineup. So you got to figure that out. Look who arrived. What's up, Ben?
How's it going, Nick?
This 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
2 days in a row. And by the way, there are 1,200 people watching this right now. So
hello to everybody that is watching. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. So what is your reaction, number one, to seeing this news? Because I was just like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like at least for this one, that De'Aaron Fox and the Spurs had kind of rumors the last couple of days, and I kind of had a feeling that there was potential some traction coming in. I'm a little surprised that it's already done now, but with obviously the Luka Doncic bombshell that came out of crazy left field last night, I'm not surprised. You know, the NBA trade deadline this week, I think, is going to be one of the biggest trade deadlines we see in forever now. You know, these two specific trades aren't including some of the guys like Jimmy Butler and Brandon Ingram and some other guys that could be also on the move come this week. But Zach LaVine, I was not expecting Zach LaVine to be in the De'Aaron Fox move. I thought that was going to be specifically a separate move. And now Zach LaVine gets to go to play back again with DeMar DeRozan, as of course they played together over in Chicago. De'Aaron Fox now gets to play over in San Antonio, which I think is a very nice fit. They're a very young team, and Wemby finally has a guy that is a all-star that he gets to go with, and I think that their spacing is going to be really good over there. So the Western Conference is absolutely loading up right now, and yeah, it's just been absolutely bonkers the last couple of days, and I expect more to come.
Well, I don't know if you heard me before you walked in. I mentioned what the Sacramento starting lineup potentially could be. It's Malik Monk, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray, and Domantas Sabonis. That's a heck of a starting lineup in Sacramento.
Yeah, no, I do really think that it was a win-win for both sides. I mean, I know that Kevin Huerter and Zach Collins and somebody else went over to the Bulls. Those are obviously some bench pieces that are over there. But yeah, the Kings I think have a really good squad right now. Partly another reason I know a lot of people are like De'Aaron Fox, being on the move. I think one of the biggest reasons why he got moved was because the relationship with Mike Brown. And when Mike Brown got moved over as a head coach from the Kings, I think that he was just like, well, I kind of want to move on. It's crazy because the Kings obviously have been really good with this new coach that they've had. But Zach LaVine gets to reunite again with DeMar DeRozan. I think it's a win-win for both sides. I think Fox is going to do really well over in San Antonio. And the thing about the Spurs too is they didn't have to like move guys like Stephon Castle and a couple other guys specifically for a move like that. So yeah, I think for a move like this specifically for both of these sides, I think that it's an absolute win. And I think I'm really excited to see in terms of how these moves turn out for both of the teams.
So when you look at both deals, and I talked about the Luka move last night, which I think is more shocking than this one, to be quite honest. Because, and by the way, quick reaction: do you think LeBron is BSing, saying he had no idea about the trade?
I don't know. I mean,
think he's BSing.
There definitely has to be some of it because there was something he retweeted after somebody reported saying that him and AD had some tension or whatever. But
writer from CBS.
Yeah, yeah, I think LeBron definitely knew something behind the scenes about it. I mean, them losing Davis, I think, is a massive blow for them. But to get a generational talent at the age that he is at, it blows my mind specifically why in the world that the Mavericks would trade a guy like that. That specifically, I mean, you look at it from other leagues, that's like trading a Jamar Chase in his prime or Aaron Judge in his prime. Those are type of moves, and I know they were obviously talking in terms of why they had to move from him about the super max in terms of conditioning, this and that. You don't move a guy like that. You just don't.
No.
And I understand specifically Luka Doncic and his defense. It's not great. I understand all of that stuff specifically. But this type of guy is somebody you just do not trade in his prime out of all times. And then, of course, you look to having the Mavericks today, right? They play the Cavaliers and, like, none of their stars decided to play. Why? Because they're probably pissed. Luka Doncic had no idea. His dad basically made a statement about it. It's like this type of overall trade was kind of like the first trade I was kind of expecting, kind of lead the week. The fact that now this is the second big blockbuster of this week just makes this overall week just absolutely insanity.
Well, I heard a report apparently this deal was agreed upon on Saturday night, and they just didn't say anything until.
Well, I mean, I think with the three teams, I think that they're probably trying to get kind of the framework out of the other part of the deal. I think that De'Aaron Fox going in San Antonio, I think, was pretty smoke from the last couple of days, and then
the Warriors apparently were in on it. Supposedly, according to Mark Stein, they were trying to swing him and Vucevic, which would have been incredible in Golden State, helping Steph Curry.
Yeah,
but I meant more about the Lakers Mavs deal. They said they supposedly had that swung already by the time that everyone was finding out. But did you have that same reaction when you saw the Shams tweet go out last night?
Oh, yeah.
Like where everyone said, there's no way he got hacked, whatever.
Yeah, no, I was about to go to sleep, and I had just an alert, and people were saying, look at the Shams post. And I just looked at it and said, breaking in big words. And I saw Luka Doncic involved. I'm like, what is this? Like, did somebody go into his phone and break something? Because Luka Doncic in a trade, like, that does not just come out of nowhere, especially at like midnight, 1 a.m. And then, there was a bunch. I had to keep on just staying on Twitter at least for like a good 15 minutes. And more smoke. Bobby Marks. I want to make sure that more people that were within the industry were able to keep kind of talking about this before, like, I really was just like, oh my God, like, boom. My twin brother was sleeping right next to me and I felt bad, but I decided to just wake him up. Like, I just was like pushing him, get up. I'm like, because
Luka got traded.
Yeah. Heck, if it was a trade like this, I probably would still let him sleep and probably would wake up. But yeah, at that point in time, I was just absolutely I was in disbelief. I really was. And and just basically all the stuff that the Mavs ownership was saying, last night in terms of why. And, yeah, just it's hard to put into words. It really is.
I mean, I'm looking at the salaries because that's the big problem with NBA trades to see how these really work. So the average salary for LaVine is 43, 45, 48 going through 26, 27. De'Aaron Fox only has 2 seasons left, which is this year and next year. So he's up 2 seasons, it seems like, or at least 1 season before Zach LaVine is up. So to trade De'Aaron Fox, and you must have been really desperate in Sacramento to trade him away, which is what I think this guy's a really good player. Like, I don't see the issues that Luka had in Dallas, where I don't know if you saw it came out afterwards from Tim McMahon and others that the Mavericks were concerned about his health, and they were concerned about his defense, and they were concerned about giving him the Supermax, 5 years, $345 million in the offseason. I don't see any of those issues here with De'Aaron Fox. And De'Aaron Fox already was in the middle of a 5-year deal.
Yeah.
So something's not adding up here for why he was traded.
Yeah,
and
I think I've got kind of an idea. Obviously, I think with the Mike Brown situation there, and there's also rumblings too that he wasn't liking what was going on in the locker room. There's obviously reporters and stuff about that because De'Aaron Fox doesn't seem like a guy that's a cause drama type of player out of a lot of the stars. But Zach LaVine, I'm not surprised specifically. I mean, this was kind of long overdue. The Bulls
he didn't want to be there.
He didn't want to be there. The Bulls are retooling. It was only a matter of time in terms of where he was going to go, and I think that for him to go to the Kings, I was expecting him to go to Golden State or somewhere else, but I think the Kings are a great fit. He gets to go play with DeMar DeRozan again, Sabonis, Keegan Murray. They got a really good thing going over there. And, Wemby finally gets a star in Fox over in San Antonio. So I think it's a win-win for both sides. And I think that the Fox kind of the breaking that Shams had last week about him reportedly, getting trade offers, I think just was like, what? And I really wanted to ask you this really quick too, Nick, in terms of a lot of people right now are talking about the untouchables in terms after the Luka, trade going down, how to basically nobody really is now untouchable, I guess you can say. I mean, like Wemby, Jokic, Tatum, there's obviously some of things, but I kind of had to retrack it. A lot of people are saying, on Facebook and Twitter and all these social medias. And I'm like, the front office for the Mavericks is absolutely ludicrous. They're dumb.
Nico Harrison is the worst GM I've ever seen in the NBA.
You trade a generational talent at 25, 26.
Let's see. Win-win for the Kings. Spurs didn't have to give up much picks.
Yeah.
I mean, they gave up a first and a second rounder, but if they're going to be if they improve this season, they play better. That pick will just become later in the first round. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, the Kings got a massive haul as well too in this. Yeah.
This one we agree with 1,000,000%.
Yeah. We can take a screenshot on this stream right now. I think everybody basically be all agreed upon on that.
Zan in on it.
Hey,
rough time to be a fan of prominent franchises.
Well, Zan, we did talk about specifically, we asked about the Bulls' future, and yeah, I mean, I know, losing LaVine does suck, and obviously DeRozan, I think.
Yeah, but he didn't want to be there, though.
But yeah, there's a ton of guys. I mean, Vucevic is going to be next this week.
I like him. He's such an underrated big man shooting guard.
Yeah. I mean, I think you now look at the Warriors. The Warriors, they really need a guy to go with Steph. I think that Vucevic is my guy to look at. And crazy enough now too, Nick, because Jimmy Butler, I felt like for the last couple of days was the whole entire talk of the NBA trade deadline, and in terms of this and that. And I just love how these two big blockbuster trades, I'm not saying kind of takes away a lot of the stuff that's now going on with him, but it's almost an afterthought. it's like, oh yeah, by the way, Jimmy Butler, we got to figure out what's going to happen with him.
So they've been trying to move DeMar, LaVine, and Vucevic forever. For now, well, yes, but
Definitely.
you have to remember at the same time, the NBA has these ridiculously dumb rules that you have to match salaries to make deals work. It's the only league across professional sports that you have to match salaries to make deals. And logistically wise, that's the only thing you can do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you could say they've been trying to move DeMar and LaVine and Vucevic, but if the money and the salaries don't match, you can't move them.
Right.
So you could say, "Oh wow, it finally happened." That's because that's how long it took for them to get moved.
Yep.
I mean, I want to go back because you were starting to ask me a question before about untouchables.
Yep.
So my honest answer is no one is untouchable now. And unless you signed a ridiculously large contract, and I would throw Tatum and Brown in there because they just signed like one signed like 320 and the other one signed like 350, I think. So it's going to be tough to move those.
Yeah.
So if the Celtics were going to eat more than half of that, which they're not going to.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So the Bulls, just to finish that, they pretty much have to blow it up.
Yeah.
That's kind of where they're at this point.
Yep.
They're stuck with a Lonzo Ball situation. But who's going to want him? He was out for what, a season and a half?
I mean, I do think that at this point in time right now, since he's healthy, I think somebody off the bench he could present value, because I was reading with the Bulls that they're pretty much open to trading everyone on their roster. So I would not roll out.
They should be. They should.
Yeah, they should. They should. I mean, they're in a situation right now. I mean, I know the last couple of years they were like extremely just in the middle. I'm like, pick a side. Buy,
either go for it or don't.
And you know, I think most people are expecting them to sell. So
the Bulls have been a tough watch the past couple of years, just because they can't decide. Oh well,
they got Josh Giddey. I'm like,
that's the last person I want reputation wise on my roster. To be fair, you brought up Jimmy Butler. I thought Jimmy Butler would have been traded already, in my opinion, but.
So that's going to be tougher, I think, because of, I don't know about the overall distraction.
He's also technically a free agent with a player option.
Yeah. I do think that this week the Suns or the Warriors are going to pounce. I know it's going to happen.
This makes total sense. Don't think anyone wants to pay Jimmy, so we'll say, yeah, I think that's a huge problem. No one's going to pay Jimmy, even if so he's got a player option, I think, for like $53 million, which if he gets traded, I'm assuming that player option will get turned into a mutual option for both sides to decide if they want to stay, because you can't just throw a player option into somebody else's grasp if you get traded to them. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say that eventually he becomes a free agent if he gets traded. I think he'll be a free agent anyway, even if he finishes in Miami, even though $55 million or $53 or $55 million is a lot to turn down as a player option.
Right.
But of all the guys, I didn't think Jimmy Butler was going to be the one left that hasn't been traded yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the guys to watch out for the remainder of the week, Jimmy obviously is number one. I'll probably go with Brandon Ingram. I think there's been a lot of talk with him. Vucevic, Valanciunas, Kyle Kuzma. I think that's another one to look out for.
He kind of has been in unfortunate situations a few times. Yeah. He hasn't found the right team.
I know this probably won't be happening, but Jordan Poole, I think, will be getting calls for.
I think the Warriors are regretting that, by the way.
No.
And if they could do that trade over again, they would have found a way to keep him and tell Draymond Green to take a walk
I
if they
saw
could.
something yesterday about RJ Barrett's name from the Raptors. I doubt it. I think that's a massive long shot, but shit. I mean,
I don't think he's worth very much, to be honest.
Colin Sexton, I think, is going to be a popular name from the Jazz. Him and Collins. I think the Jazz obviously are trying to move some pieces. Bogdanovich, Clint Capella. There's so many names out there, and I know that obviously they're not going to be all blockbusters like these. I mean, we're getting the cream of the crop early on and often, Nick. Out of a lot of names that still are to be looked at, but I think that if this is kind of a starting point of potentially what we have to come this week, I mean, shit, we're going to be in for a crazy fun week.
So Bobby Marks, who you mentioned accurately enough, who's a front office insider, he does all the numbers crunching. That's why I like him. He's really good at all that stuff. So he put out a tweet about 10 minutes ago. Here is the info on the Fox negotiation extension from last week. For example, the Spurs, Fox's preferred destination, are projected to have cap space this offseason. If Fox were traded to San Antonio or any other team with significant cap space, he would be permitted to renegotiate his salary from $37.1 million to $46.4 million 6 months after the deal, in addition to being eligible to sign a 4-year, $229 million extension that would start in the 26-27 season. If Fox were traded in the offseason instead, which obviously didn't happen, the earliest he could renegotiate and then extend his contract would have been in January. So, because he got traded, he can renegotiate for a higher salary.
Yep.
But you just said it. No one expected De'Aaron Fox and Luka Doncic to get moved this early, 4 days before the deadline.
Yeah, no, I mean, Luka's was obviously one that I think is going to be one for years to come in terms of a guy, in terms of his nature, that we're going to see a trade like that again go down.
Wait a minute. We have a little bit of breaking news from Brian Windhorst, too. The Heat's Jimmy Butler has communicated to the Warriors that he's unwilling to sign an extension there, and therefore trade talks to send him to Golden State have ended.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of breaking news for you right there.
Okay.
So he pretty much just eliminated a huge potential destination, saying he won't sign there.
So it sounds like Phoenix or nothing, then. It really is.
I'm trying to think who else is even out there who could afford it.
I mean, it's kind of a long shot that Milwaukee has, I guess, had their name floated around, but I don't know why they would trade Eastern Conference rival to an Eastern Conference rival.
They wouldn't. Or at least not in division.
No. Western Conference, man, there's a ton of teams. I think after looking at some of the moves that the Western Conference teams has had, I mean, maybe like a team like Houston, a young team, maybe they bring a guy like him in. Ime Udoka kind of fits that, that type of mold there, maybe.
Memphis, they're a good team. They're playing way better than they should be right now.
Yep. I think that Houston's maybe a couple stars away from really, really taking the next step. Yeah, I could see like the Rockets, maybe Memphis. Yeah, I mean, besides the Suns, I think between the Suns, maybe Memphis and Houston, I think that's pretty much that. I think that the Heat are so desperate now. I mean, the fact that they suspended him twice, and then they suspended him pretty much from being from the team for the remainder of the season, it basically tells you all you need to know. We don't want to just have this distraction anymore. And the Heat, to be fair, have been playing pretty well without him. So,
problem with the Suns is the Beal no trade clause. This is the thing I brought up to you last week.
Yeah, I mean, so apparently with Beal, though, he is able to be open to willing his no trade clause if the opportunity presents himself. So, for instance, right, there was a potential where, I don't know, something with him and the Bulls. I think maybe it was like Zach LaVine and Bradley Beal potentially trade, kind of like this one. But it's like, shit, I mean, the Bulls suck, and Bradley Beal wasn't going to go to the Bulls, so he obviously declined it. Obviously, there's no trade clause. So he probably has suitors out there that he could be willing to go to, and I think he'd be open to. But it's just all about specifically the right situation.
Right. And Just putting that up in case people didn't see it.
Oh, I'm seeing it right now here.
Yeah, so I just put it up on the screen here. Breaking for Brian Windhorst. This is his actual tweet. Heat's Jimmy Butler has communicated to the Warriors that he's unwilling to sign an extension. There are therefore trade talks to send him to Golden State have ended for now. Jimmy Butler's an idiot. I'm just going to come out and flat out and say it. Jimmy Butler is just trying to alienate everybody involved. There's nobody left. There's nobody. Like the Suns have their own issue going on right now. What are they? They're like 50 million over the cap right now, supposedly. I'm going to look that up really quick because I don't know what the full number is. Here it is. So right now, their cap for 24-25 is 214 million. You want to know what the salary cap number is?
What's up?
It's 140.5 million.
Oh, this is for Beal, right?
No, but I'm talking about this is the cap. The NBA cap is 140.5 million. The Suns are at 214.
Yeah, no, that's another thing too. Their cap is a bit abysmal.
Jimmy's been a problem everywhere he's gone. Yeah. That's Mr. the Obvious. But to get back to the cap situation, I'm trying to do the quick math in my head. That means they would be like 70 plus million over the cap. So how are they making a deal for Jimmy Butler?
They would have, they would have to be hopeful to get rid of and eat up a lot of really bad contracts.
But Bradley Beal wouldn't cover that by himself, even if they got him to be traded.
No,
he makes 50 million. He makes 50 million. That doesn't cover it.
They would have to eat up a shit ton from multiple guys. I just don't see it.
So Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker make up the cap.
No, that's crazy.
So Kevin Durant makes almost 52 million. Right. Bradley Beal makes over 50. And Devin Booker makes almost 50.
150?
It's over the cap.
Yeah.
They're over the cap with those three guys.
Yeah.
I mean, at least with the De'Aaron Fox move, the Spurs are going to have cap space going into the offseason.
Definitely.
So, to say, you know what? I'm going to give free advice to the Suns right now and their front office. Don't make this move. You're going to cause yourself a headache. You're going to cause yourself a headache, and it's going to cost you way more over the cap that you're willing to pay.
We've seen this pick before, too. Not only are you going to get affected by the cap, the big threes in the NBA just never work anymore. So that could also be something that could bite in the ass. Not only the cap, the big threes, and the Jimmy Butler bringing the distraction. That's why teams are not going to go for him. That's the bottom line. So there's multiple factors in terms of, Jimmy Butler, and I hate to cross sports, but it's like the Stephon Diggs of NBA. Just a great overall talent, but a prima donna specifically off.
Yeah.
That nobody else wants to take right now.
Agreed. By the way, I saw somewhere they had to get rid of Nurkic and Grayson Allen, but I'm not a expert.
They're trying to get rid of Nurkic. I mean, Nurkic apparently hates the head coach too.
First of all, Grayson Allen was playing the other night, so he's not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And they just signed him to like a 4-year, $50 million deal. He's not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Nurkic, they're kind of stuck with right now. I have the numbers up for all the players. He's making a little over 18 million. So they have to find someone who's willing to take that, number one, because I didn't even know he was worth 18 million or worth anywhere near that money whatsoever. But the Suns are screwed. I think they bought in way too much, and now it's costing them.
Yep.
Jimmy Butler, I think, should just retire at this point. I'm saying that half jokingly.
Yeah.
Because Jimmy Butler just, every time someone says, well, why don't you come here? Then he says, I refuse to sign an extension.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, How do you even know there's an extension for you to be signed wherever you go?
Yeah. It's not necessarily a guarantee.
And also, do you want him as a rental player? That sounds like a headache. So what do you do there? I mean, I don't know what you do, but Jimmy Butler, and anyone who's a fan of Jimmy Butler, I apologize. But if you are, I feel sorry for you. But Jimmy Butler is a headache. He's the new problem child headache in the NBA.
Yep.
Because if he would just stop with all the antics and all the ego issues, and he would just slide into like a number 2 role behind somebody, that team would probably go far and win.
Yep.
I mean, not that I really want to wish this into fruition by any means, but he'd be great as like a number 3 in Boston.
I'm good where we are right now. And I also do think that Brad Stevens isn't an idiot like the Mavericks front office that would even entertain something of that nature.
Can you imagine if they put Kyrie and Jimmy Butler and Anthony Davis together in Dallas?
Oh, I would love it. I love some moves specifically that I know for a fact that gives me I don't obviously want to bring your Brooklyn Nets up, but the Brooklyn Nets like 2.0 big 3 in terms of just like a ton of guys that are ball dominant type of guys, and you just know for a fact that eventually something like that's gonna blow up in our face.
Oh, not even a question.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just enough already. Like, I can't take it. It's so much. Like,
well, let me ask you this, because I know we've kind of talked about kind of the names right now that, like, you know, are going to be going, and some obviously some other guys that we know that are going to be on the move kind of afterward. But do you think there's going to be kind of another like a Luka Doncic-esque type of move that you potentially could see coming this week out of like anybody? I mean, you look at OKC, right?
They're not trading anybody.
Probably not, but think about it. They have a ton of picks.
They do.
So, and they're obviously ready to win now. They're one of the best teams in the West. I do think now with a lot of these teams from the West, when they see some of these type of trades, I think that GMs are going to be acting more and more this week to stay competitive. Luka to the Lakers, I think, basically just put everybody else in the West and the whole entire league on notice. I mean, you have one of the greatest players out to ever play, and you have one of the greatest players in his prime to team up with him for the I guess foreseeable future, but definitely at least for the next couple of years, because you don't know how much LeBron has left. But Luka's obviously going to be their star for the foreseeable future, and then obviously this move. So, listen, like we were talking about untouchables. I wouldn't rule anything out. I mean, people are talking about Embiid. Absolutely not. The guy can't even stay on the court to save his life. Why would anybody want to take him? Talk about diva and a prima donna. I mean, that's Ben Simmons. That's starting to become Ben Simmons 2.0. If ever
it is, it is,
and that's really something really hard to top. I mean, the fact that somebody else can be right around what Ben Simmons is doing, especially for a guy that's supposed to be an MVP type of candidate.
He's not.
The fact that the MVP type of candidate is not. Maybe he's an MVP type of candidate by sitting on the bench, but he's not. He's not playing games. So,
what is
an MVP type of candidate if you're not playing?
What is the mantra now? Basically, he plays every other day. That's what they're basically doing with Joel Embiid.
Do that now.
But I'm saying is that's what the Sixers have basically come out and told everybody, that he's going to play every other day. But he's being paid. He's being paid a king's ransom, though.
Live it up, man, for the Sixers. You know,
so they're screwed. They're stuck with his contract. Yep. And I'm trying to look that one up because that one is fascinating. That contract in itself. Let's see if I can find. Here it is. So he's making $51 million this year.
Yep. Nobody's taking that.
And then guess what? For the rest of his contract, the numbers go up. The rest of the contract. And guess what? He's got 4 more years after this. Listen to this. So almost 51 and a half this year. He's going to make 55 next year.
Oof.
Then in 26-27, almost 60. Then in 27-28, 64. And then the final year of the deal, 28-29, almost 70.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do? I don't know. Can you claim insurance on this guy and like call it a day? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the thing I want to know. Can they claim insurance? Because the guy doesn't play enough games.
Mm-mm.
And now with all these rules with being eligible for rewards for awards because you have to play a certain amount of games, he's never going to win an MVP again.
No.
Which is probably a good thing, by the way.
And I'm not the biggest. I think Embiid's very, very talented. I'm not going to sit here and not say it, but I don't think that he is a consistent MVP type of candidate. I just don't think he is. And now the fact now that he just does not play games, I think Jokic, right? People want to make the comparison with Jokic and Embiid for years now. And it sucks now because when you have the Nuggets and Sixers, I think a ton of people want to watch the matchup and kind of see in terms of like who is the guy to be MVP. And the fact that you have one guy that's supposed to be it that can't even play on the court, it's embarrassing. It really, really is. And
can I go on the record too? I think that Jokic got robbed of 4 straight MVPs, to be honest. Because he won 3 out of the 4 when Joel Embiid, who was practically injured for 20 to 25 games, still won an MVP award the year that Jokic probably should have won 4 in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the most ludicrous thing ever. Like, Jokic has been... I don't think he's missed many games, if any.
He doesn't miss games. It takes a lot for him to... If anybody, it takes a lot for him to, not miss.
Oh, these are interesting. Sixers are crazy with that injured duo. Yeah, they are. And I thought he was robbed until Perkins. Perkins talked about the race card with Embiid. Kendrick Perkins is another one I can't stand. By the way, I feel like sometimes he's a little
Clark of NBA media, pretty much.
What? What did you say?
Basically, the Ryan Clark of NBA media.
Yes, that's actually a really good comparison.
He basically is a bounce off in terms of like guys like Windhorst and Shams and all these guys basically say, and just it's almost like he's trying to fit in.
My favorite is, I don't know if you saw the video he put out last night after the trade from last night, and he basically said, "You all are wrong. The Lakers won the deal," and blah blah. And I'm like, dude, like no one. And it is weird because he must be partying somewhere because it was like really loud music.
I saw it, yeah.
And actually, I stand corrected. This is actually right. He called it a win for the Mavs, actually. Which, how is this a win? How is this a win for the Mavs? It's not.
It's ludicrous. It's blasphemy, as Stephen A. Smith says on First Take.
Yeah, there's no way the Mavs won this trade.
Okay, maybe you can make an argument for the foreseeable future, but you can't even make an argument for that. As great as Anthony Davis is, he's an aging type of guy right now. Yeah, maybe his perimeter defense is good, but it's Luka Doncic. It's Luka Doncic. This is like us Celtics fans, including myself, trading Jason Tatum in his prime for Anthony Davis. Like, no, that's dumb. I mean, yeah, Luka Doncic, he has conditioning problems. His defense hasn't been great, but this guy's a generational type of star, and he's so young that he probably can get himself to becoming a great defensive player. And yeah, I mean, you cannot just give up a piece like that. So the fact that you pretty much are sitting and telling me that the Mavericks won this when Luka Doncic is on the move.
And by the way, I'll give you Anthony Davis contract numbers because this is where you and I will laugh too. Yeah. Okay, this year $43 million. The guy can't stay on the court at all. Next year $57 million. Can't stay on the court.
Apparently, the Lakers didn't want to give him an extension.
Well, he's already signed through 27, 28, so it didn't matter. So if he wasn't traded, he would have been there until 27, 28. All right, so 24, 25, 43 million, 25, 26, 57, 26, 27, 62 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then 27, 28, almost 67. These guys are not worth this money. No. Like, just some of the notes. that they put in here. He's the highest paid player on the Dallas Mavericks this year. So he went from, well, he might have been, I don't know what LeBron was making this year. He's probably making over 50. But
I can check that for you.
by the way, the irony, who's his agent?
Rich Paul?
Yes. You notice who's facilitating all these trades? Rich Paul and Clutch Sports.
Clutch Sports, yep. De'Aaron Fox is also part of Clutch Sports as well.
Gee, isn't that quite a coincidence that 2 trades with 2 of Rich Paul's clients happened back-to-back days, right?
So LeBron is going to be a free agent in 2026, 2027. He has a player option next year, and his cap is almost at 50,000. Right now it's at 48, and next year it's going to be 52. So
I think it's what they call a 1-and-1 deal technically.
Yeah.
So
I don't see him leaving now. The fact that they have Luka Doncic there.
I don't. By the way, another good comic: trading your future generational talent for nothing.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's accurate. I don't know. The NBA for a long period of time, we go through stretches, and the last one, because you and I remember it well, is the Big Three, when they would have a bunch of big threes.
Yep.
Actually, that kind of started with Miami and Boston, actually, because you saw it was LeBron, Wade, and Bosh until, unfortunately, Bosh had the blood clots situation, couldn't play anymore. And then you had KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen, which
I've been part of a couple of big threes.
Actually, you could almost say that was a big 4 at the time with Rajon Rondo. But
yeah, I like Rondo, but he wasn't part of it.
Well, and then Rondo kind of became a head case after he left Boston, but that's a whole different situation. But we went through that period of time where big threes were a big thing. You spend a bunch of money. Go ask Golden State how that worked out.
Yep.
With what?
I said during their dynasty.
Yeah, look at KD and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and you can even throw Draymond Green in there too.
Yeah,
I guess
Draymond was part of it. Yeah, he was really valuable for a lot of stuff.
By the way, the only reason he got this $100 million deal that he got now is because he was still part of the Warriors dynasty.
Right.
And I guarantee you, if the Warriors could have that as a do-over, they would. Right now. By the way, can you imagine when he becomes part of the media, what that's going to be like? He's already planning for it.
I could see it. I mean, he's a really energetic, entertaining type of guy. I think he'd be funny.
Imagine when the strings are off, so to speak, and he's not on an NBA roster anymore.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be tough.
But yeah, the Jimmy Butler thing is really the only thing left of big moves, I feel like. And I don't know if
there's more.
I don't know if he's going to get moved, though. I just don't see him getting... He's making it worse and worse. I think he's doing it on purpose, saying he's not going to sign with places so that he can't be traded.
I'm going to give him until Tuesday. If he's not moved at all by Tuesday, I don't think he's getting moved at all.
Wait, what day?
Tuesday. Today's Sunday, I think, within the next day.
So that would be the 4th, right?
Yeah. The deadline's on, I think,
Thursday. The 6th.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we don't see any significant movement by Tuesday, because sometimes some of these deals take 2-3 days to get moving.
Yeah. But for a guy like Jimmy Butler, who basically publicly stated that he wanted to be out by Christmas, I mean, there's just not a lot of suitors right now. The Heat specifically have no plans to keep him around. They have no plans at all. He has been a massive distraction. I mean, Pat Riley and him clearly have had issues off the team.
I mean, the guy was freaking flying private to get away from his teammates.
Yeah.
Now,
I need to know.
I don't know how suspension rules work, and is he breaking rules by not flying on the same plane as his own team? I don't know.
I think at this point in time, I don't think they honestly care what rules he's breaking. I think they just want him out.
But I feel like they're almost and by the way, I agree he's a head case, but I feel like almost they're looking for ways to suspend him now a little bit, if that makes sense. But because they're looking for the smallest little thing. Oh, well, he sneezed and fell over and hurt himself. All right, we got to suspend him because he didn't follow our rules. Like the private plane thing, we've seen stars, big names do stuff like that before. Like, I guarantee you right now, if LeBron wanted to fly on a private plane, you really think the NBA is going to do anything to him?
No.
No. So the rules should be the same. Like, you can't pick and choose which person you suspend or fine. You got to have the same rules for everybody.
Yep.
So I don't know if it was you who told me or someone else told me the whole Jimmy Butler at shoot around thing that he got suspended for. Because he was told he was going to the bench. It might have been Nick D told me like he got suspended for at shoot around. He was told that you're going to come off the bench
for Haywood Highsmith. Yep.
And basically he walked out of the arena and left.
I mean, to be fair,
he said he literally walked out of the arena and left. Like, what are you supposed to do?
No.
I think he deserved the suspension for that, actually. You can't walk out of the arena just because you're told you're coming off the bench.
He just doesn't want to make it any easier for himself. He basically just, at this point in time, he's like, yep, if you're going to keep on pushing me, I'm just going to make it even worse. So.
Yeah, but he's hurting himself. No?
Yeah, he is, definitely. Like, we do have a little bit, not really much of breaking news, but I think you know Tim Reynolds.
Yes. He's from the AP.
AP writer. This was dropped around 9:05, so about an hour ago. With regards to the Utah Jazz, because obviously they're in the 3-team trade.
They're the third wheel.
Yeah, they were kind of like there, but apparently he said we are hearing that the Utah Jazz aren't done. Not only 90 hours left until deadline, so probably guys like Clarkson, Walker Kessler.
That team is done. Like to be honest, I could see Gobert getting traded again. Because if I'm not mistaken,
Gobert's on Minnesota.
Oh, but I'm saying they made a huge deal with Minnesota, got 4 picks out of it.
Yeah,
I mean, like I could see them just making deals for picks. Because if I'm not mistaken, the Utah GM is what's his name, who used to be with the Celtics, right?
Danny Ainge, Trader Danny.
I love Danny Ainge. Why wow, you're really on the trader side?
No. I Trader Danny Ainge. It's more of a nice thing about it than not. I mean, Danny had really, really great memories, but he, the Marcus Smart trade was obviously
that was stupid.
Yeah,
stupid. I'm on your side for that one for a million years, forever. Like you traded away a defensive stud who could score.
He could also be on the trade block. Apparently, Marcus Smart.
If they could get him back, I would.
Off the bench, I would kill to have him back. That'd be awesome.
I think he was a fan favorite too. Like you knew when he was on the court, like the fans were ready. Like they were just ready. Like during all the playoff runs that they made,
he embraced it too, which is great.
I mean, he did have a little issue sometimes with being a little dirty-ish from time to time, but I wouldn't say it's anything like what's his name was on the Rockets.
Dylan Brooks.
Who?
Dylan Brooks.
Oh, Dylan Brooks. Talk about a guy who's a real headache on the court.
Oh.
But long story short, I don't think the trade deadline moves are over. I think there's going to be more.
Oh. Well, Nick, it's not trade deadline related, but it's baseball related. We got a breaking news thing out of.
What now?
Jack Flaherty has reportedly signed on a 2-year contract with the Detroit Tigers.
Wasn't that where he was originally?
Yep. He is going back. So
I'll leave that for hitting for the cycle.
News sports related on this stream for the whole entire time. So for those that have been joining, I know we've been kind of going all over the place, but we pretty much have broken kind of everything that you guys obviously had to know about. And,
yeah. I mean, there's going to be more.
We'll obviously break more.
Yeah, there's going to be more. we had our Substack go live tonight with our first NFL piece. Anthony and I are going to be doing a NBA Substack weekly going forward called Alley-Oop Analytics. And that is going to be weekly during the NBA season and throughout the playoffs. And I'll tell you, we've already discussed that the Luka trade and this trade are probably going to be a massive discussion in a more expansive detail.
Yeah, what a way to get that new thing going. You got two basically of the biggest bombshells that we've seen in forever. So, best of luck with that. And yeah, you can't go wrong, obviously, starting that stream with the two things of that.
Yeah, so if you want to find Alley-Oop Analytics, I mean, you and Ryan are going to be doing a baseball bonanza for Substack, which is going to be fun too.
Sure to watch that. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Because that's kind of the same angle where you run out of time to do stuff on show. You could spend 5 to 10 minutes on a topic maybe you didn't have time to get to. So that'll be fun. If I could quickly find that banner, I shared it last night. etbnetwork.substack.com. Please go subscribe. It's $5 a month. It's really not expensive. And if you subscribe, you're going to get a million things, quite literally, behind that paywall. So our two things, your baseball bonanza, my Alley-Oop Analytics. There's going to be football stuff behind there. There's going to be college sports behind there. A lot. So please go subscribe, etbnetwork.substack.com. We just expanded to there. Our first official piece went up at 7 p.m. Eastern with Grant Winsauer. Early look into Super Bowl week for this week. So go check.
I got to say really quick, speaking of the Super Bowl, it's a great job that the week in between the championship and the Super Bowl got a shit ton of news.
Johnny was saying that on Twitter before. Yes.
Because it's always kind of that dead time of like, all right, can you just get away from this week and just move on? It's like, no, like NBA is just like, oh yeah, we'll keep you guys saying, and we'll trade.
We'll pick up the slack while the NFL's off. No biggie.
We'll trade Luka Doncic and De'Aaron Fox and Zach LaVine within 2 days span. We'll be good. So yeah,
no problem.
Well, Super Bowl is obviously coming next week. Really quick, those as well. We're going to be having a stream come on Saturday, the 8th. We're going to basically go through everything regarding the Super Bowl and in terms of our matchups, the X factors, all the great prop bets. So make sure to join that and stuff as well.
Yeah, our Super Bowl stream is always the live stream we do every year. It's about an hour and a half. We have a 4 to 6 p.m. window set for it, but we don't have to use that full 2 hours. So it'll go live on Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So anyone who's part of the network pretty much is going to be there. So join us. That won't be on Substack. That'll be a live stream that's done on YouTube and all that stuff. So you'll be able to see it. But if you want unnecessary wagers, that's another thing that's on our Substack platform. Nick D is going to create a ridiculous unnecessary wager of
like. Got to be more realistic now, as he was basically saying, because the ones in the past basically were like all over the place, and now it's like
no. We discussed it. We're probably going to put like a plus limit on what the odds could be. So like maybe you go to like plus 1,000 to create an unnecessary wager. That way, if someone actually wants to play it, they could play it.
Yeah.
So that'll probably come out at the end of the week. And then Super Bowl week will be here. And then it's time to transition back into baseball.
I'm excited.
That's crazy, right? That spring training is around the corner.
Yeah. I mean, when it starts to warm up a little bit weather-wise and the sun starts to come down a little bit later on throughout the day, which I think is going to be starting this week.
Yeah.
That's when baseball is right around the corner. And so, we're excited for that. And just make sure, guys, to really just, tune in into our stuff. There's just going to be a ton of stuff coming up. Obviously, all the sub stuff, any breaking news stuff, of course. I just came on with Nick and, breaking all this stuff down. There'll probably be a ton of stuff throughout the week. And obviously the shows that Nick and Anthony do, me and Ryan do. I'm going to be on tomorrow with Nick for moving the goalposts.
Nick D.
Um,
Yeah.
Nick D. Yep. Thank you. So we're going to have a ton of stuff that you guys obviously don't want to miss. So yeah, I mean, whoever's that's watching, we really appreciate it. And yeah, just make sure to really just join into our stuff. We just love to give you guys all the latest that's obviously around the sports world. And so yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. No, we really appreciate it. And just one more thing as well. YouTube.com/GTB Network. Go subscribe. If you like these live streams, I see almost 1,300 people watching this right now. Okay. So please, it only takes one click of the button. Just hit the subscribe button. Even if you're watching on YouTube, because a lot of people probably are watching on YouTube also, just go over to this link right here that's below us. Just go over to the subscribe button, hit the button. It's that simple. It helps us grow. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers.
And share it too. So if you do click on it, share with other people, family, friends, anybody that you know. And yeah, we just any type of specifically of you guys subscribing not only makes us feel better, but for you guys. Because obviously we feel like we want to make sure that we're giving you guys the best content possible. So it's not going to be possible to give you guys the best content if you guys are obviously not doing your part as well. So we really appreciate it if you guys do.
Yeah, so do that, like I said, and I think that's it for the night. Wow, we went an hour. I was on here for an hour and 20 minutes. You've been on for another 20 minutes with me. So wow. Yep. But that'll do it. That was the breaking news. Obviously, was Sacramento trading De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs in a multi-team trade. The Bulls send Zach LaVine to the Kings. And then we find out afterwards that Jimmy Butler is just a headache and doesn't want to help the Heat whatsoever. So that'll do it. I'm Nick. Have a good night. There'll probably be some more NBA trade deadline, so just stay alert if another live stream pops up. I spent like an hour and 10 minutes by myself last night talking about the Luka and the
That's
Lakers.
Impressive to be able to basically just stay on for that.
That was tough, but I guess once I start babbling, I forget time once you're in here.
Sure.
So that's it. So have a good night, everybody. We'll see you next time. And enjoy sports. Enjoy the NBA. Enjoy the NBA trade deadline because it's coming up on February 6th. Have a good night.